Imagine you're lost alone, under a sky that weeps not for days, not for months, but for an eternity. For 2 million years, the rain never stopped. This wasn't just a storm. It was a flood that swallowed continents, carved new oceans, and erased everything that once lived. Now picture yourself there, standing in a desert of red stone. The air tastes like dust. The horizon flickers with heat, endless and silent. Then a single drop lands at your feet, followed by another. And before you can breathe, the sky opens. The storm begins. It doesn't end after a season or a generation. It rains for 2 million years straight. What kind of storm could last that long? What kind of force could drown an entire world and still create something new? By the end of this story, you'll understand how the world wasn't destroyed by rain. It was reborn through it. 230 million years ago, the Earth was one vast land, Pangaea, ringed by single endless ocean. There were no borders, no separate continents, just one massive body baked under a merciless sun. Rivers came and died with the seasons. Every breath of wind carried the taste of salt and heat. But beneath that cracked surface, something was stirring, pressure building in the dark heart of the planet. Deep fissures tore open the crust. Fire spilled across the ground in floods of lava. Mountains burned. The sky turned copper red. For hundreds of thousands of years, volcanoes exhaled clouds of carbon and ash. The air thickened. The oceans warmed. The planet began to choke on its own breath. And then came the water. It began as a whisper, small storms, scattered floods, but soon the whisper grew into a roar that wrapped the planet in clouds. The atmosphere itself turned into a sea. Lightning carved the horizon. Thunder rolled like the sound of continents breaking. This was no ordinary rain. This was a fever consuming the earth. Imagine watching a storm that outlives empires. A child born under its first lightning would die before ever seeing the sun again. Forests drowned. Deserts vanished beneath rivers that forgot where they began. Species that had ruled for ages vanished in the mud, their bones dissolving into the soil. The world was drowning, and no one could stop it. But in that destruction, life was rewriting its own story. Seeds that had once waited decades for a drop of moisture now flourished. Ferns rose where deserts had burned. Great conifer forests stretched across the land. The air filled with the scent of wet earth and green hope. The world was changing, painfully, completely. The rulers of the dry world, massive tusked herbivores and armored reptiles, could not adapt. They fell one by one, starved and sinking into the new swamps. Predators lost their prey. Ecosystems collapsed. Yet in the cracks of this collapse, small, forgotten creatures survived. They were quick, they were curious, and they would one day become the most powerful beings the planet had ever seen. These were the first dinosaurs, tiny, fast, and fragile. For millions of years, they had hidden in the shadows of giants. But the storm changed everything. The endless rain cleansed the old world and gave them a chance to rise. Where the ground turned soft and treacherous, their upright stance gave them speed. Where vegetation changed, their flexible diets let them endure. Nature had dealt every species the same catastrophe, but only those who could evolve survived it. Scientists call this the Carnian pluvial episode, but that name feels too small for what truly happened. Imagine thunder that never ends, clouds that wrap the planet like a blanket, and rivers that carve whole new continents. The sky had become the ocean, and the ocean had begun to fall back to Earth. It was destruction and rebirth woven together, every drop of water rewriting evolution itself. When the storms finally faded, the Earth that emerged was unrecognizable. The deserts had turned to forests. The air shimmered with humidity and life, and scattered through the wet earth were the tracks of a new age, three-toed footprints left by small, upright creatures exploring a world still dripping from creation's rain. Their world smelled of resin and ash, of renewal and danger. Every breath they took carried the memory of the flood. From those survivors came everything that would follow. The long-necked giants that grazed in conifer valleys, the swift hunters that ruled the coasts, the ancestors of birds that would one day reclaim the sky, all of it born from a storm that nearly erased life itself. The rain had not destroyed the world, it had prepared it for something greater. Every rock from that era carries the mark of the flood. Layers of red stone cut by black shale, the scar of a planet that drowned itself to begin again. Geologists still read those scars, tiny fossils, grains of ash, traces of carbon, each one a letter in Earth's oldest diary. And if you listen closely, the stone still whispers what it remembers, that survival is not about strength, but change. The dinosaurs did not conquer by force. They inherited a world that had learned to adapt. In the silence after the storm, they spread across Pangaea, filling every forest, every river valley, every sunlit plain. Their era had begun, not through dominance, but through endurance. Think about that. The greatest empire in Earth's history was born from rain. 2 million years of chaos forged the future of life itself. Destruction became creation. Death became opportunity. And the world remembered what it means to start over. If you walk the red deserts of Arizona today, you can still see it. Thin black layers running through the rock. That's the memory of those ancient floods. Touch the stone, and you're touching time. The same water that once drowned the world still flows through your veins. Maybe that's what this story is really about. Not the rain, not the dinosaurs, but the idea that every ending carries the seed of a beginning. The Earth has fallen and risen again countless times, and so will we. Because life, no matter how deep it sinks, always finds a way to breathe again. The storm that lasted 2 million years ended long ago, but its lesson still echoes in every heartbeat, every drop of rain that touches the ground. The world doesn't fear destruction. It uses it. It learns. It changes. And sometimes it even creates beauty from chaos. If you close your eyes, you can almost hear it. The quiet rhythm of rain on stone, that ancient heartbeat, the sound of a planet remembering. Thank you for watching, for feeling this journey through the storm. If this story moved you, like, share, and subscribe, because the next one might just change how you see the world beneath your feet.